Hiya guys, how you doing? I've been a little bit quiet this last week on here due to the fact I had loads going on. We had our Sky Christmas party on Thursday down in Chelsea, would you believe? And I've had my parents down for both the AC Milan game and then the Fulham game at the weekend. So there's been a lot going on, and I've not been active on here. So I've been letting the standards slip a little bit. But I thought I'd just give a little update from the training ground today. Before we get on to talking about injuries and the news from Eddie Howe's news conference this morning, I just wanted to touch on the AC Milan game last week, because obviously I put a tweet out not long after the end of the match saying that I was surprised that Newcastle didn't manage the game in a way that they could still be playing in Europe after Christmas in the Europa League, and obviously it's received quite a lot of comments, a lot of speculation, a lot of people just coming up to me on Saturday at the Fulham game and saying, look, I wanted to talk to you about this. I agreed with that, I disagreed with that, but just generally, I mean, think even now, nearly a week on, I'm still a bit surprised that Newcastle went so gung-ho at the end and tried to get the winner and stay in the Champions League when the Europa League was there. Now, I say that as a reporter who has been to a UEFA Cup final when I used to work for Rangers, and also covered the Europa League final with Rangers last year when they lost out to Eintracht Frankfurt over in Seville. And I have to say, if you can get that far in a European competition, irrespective of what competition it is, I think it's great for the club, it's great for the support, and it's an opportunity to win a trophy. I also felt that if Newcastle had had something to fall back on in a European sense next year in February, I think it would have been a real shot in the arm, because I kind of feel it now puts more pressure on this match against Chelsea tomorrow, because if you lose against Chelsea tomorrow and exit the Carabao Cup, all you've then got left is the Premier League and the FA Cup. And of course we all know about Newcastle's draw in the FA Cup away to Sunderland, and I think everyone would agree, whether openly or secretly, that it's going to be a very tough draw. So I just felt to have kept another competition alive would have been a good thing to do. But listen, I'm not a football manager, I'm an amateur sports person, and perhaps maybe that's the amateur sports person in me talking, and a more professional person would have gone for the win like Newcastle did last week. And yes, they left the door open at the back for AC Milan, but they went for glory. And look, who's to criticise Newcastle and Eddie Howe when they've done what they have done over the last 2 years? He's not put a foot wrong, the players have hardly put a foot wrong, and they would have a trophy in the cabinet if it wasn't for, in my opinion, bad luck last year with the goalkeeping situation and facing Manchester United in the Carabao Cup when they were on such a really good purple patch and Newcastle were struggling. So I just kind of wanted to sort of give a little bit of context round about what I said last week. I know quite a few people came up to me on Saturday and said they agreed, and others have said that they feel that they feel I was wrong. I know quite a few of the journalists who cover the club as well felt that Newcastle should have gone for the win, and probably the bigger question, the bigger mistake was Newcastle allowing themselves to lose the game, having been 1-0 up at half time, and they had everything going in their favour. So I just felt to end up with nothing out of that game last week, to end up with nothing from a Champions League group that Newcastle were topping after 2 games, after the win against Paris Saint-Germain, the 4-1 win, was a really big turnaround, and quite disappointing, especially when we see the draw today. Newcastle would have faced Real Sociedad in the last 16, a very winnable game for them. Actually, when you look at the last 16 teams in the Champions League, I would say arguably Newcastle are probably in the top 10 of those. So, if they could have got past Real Sociedad, then we don't know what happens after that. I mean, we saw AC Milan and Inter Milan get into the semis last year, Inter Milan get into the final, so you never know what could have happened. But yeah, it's a kick in the teeth, isn't it? Because if anything summed up Newcastle's cup draws this season and the bad luck they've had, facing the group of death in the Champions League, and then Man City, Man United and Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, that draw today, when they've got the most favourable draw possible, summed the whole situation up. But listen, you don't need me to tell you that, and that's, there's been no luck when it comes to cup draws. So that was that. Looking back to Saturday, thought it was a really hard fought win. Thought Newcastle really dug in when they needed to. Didn't feel like they were going to do it in the first half, but I did say to my dad and the people who I was with at half time, I said, look, if Newcastle get one early here, they should go on and win it comfortably. They just needed one goal. Fulham were going to just sit in and play for a 0-0 draw, and I felt they were patient and they managed it really well, and they did what was needed to win the game. I thought Bruno Guimaraes was excellent. Even before I watched the highlights back, just being there live at the game, I thought he was everywhere. Passing was brilliant. Probing was really quick in the way his decision making, and I really think he helped Lewis Miley. And what a moment for him it was on Saturday, scoring that goal. What I liked about it as well, it was like time froze when he got the ball. Time froze, took a second, and just drilled it into the bottom corner. And he looks like he's got ice in his veins. That lad. Big things expected. Eddie Howe said at his press conference this morning, we're hoping that's a start for him and he goes on to an amazing career. So I'm sure most of you all know by now, but the main news out of this morning's press conference is that both Fabian Schär and Joe Linton, who were injured at the weekend, both having scans this afternoon on hamstring and glute injuries respectively. So you would suggest neither of them will play tomorrow night. Sounds like Kieran Trippier will come back into the team, and he says there's a decision to be made on Alexander Isak. I got the impression the way he was talking that he probably will be involved, but maybe as a substitute. But again, that's just me reading into Eddie Howe, and it's pretty difficult when it comes to injuries. So that is that. Look, it's going to be a hugely tough game for Newcastle, but I think they just need to look at the way they approached the last two games. Try and do that again at Chelsea, and you've got a chance of getting through to the semi-finals, having eliminated three of the best teams. In terms of team selection for tomorrow, I think there's a chance Sven Botman could play actually. I think it'd probably be a good game to bring him back in. I think there's a chance he might start as centre half alongside Emil Kraft. I think probably Jamal Lascelles needs a rest. I would expect Dubravka to continue in goals, but if Karius was to play, I don't think it'd be a big issue. Lewis Hall, we've learnt today, is eligible to play, so that's a boost even though he's not been playing much. I think there's a chance that he may start at left back. I think it'll be a toss-up between himself and Dan Burn at left back, and then I think Kieran Trippier will play right back. So I think there's decisions to be made at the back, but I think further forward the team just picks itself. Eddie said this morning, I'm going to pick a strong team because I don't have any options to. He knows that he has to play tired players, so you would expect the likes of Bruno and Miley, Longstaff, Gordon, Almiron, these guys to start again. Callum Wilson or Isak if he's fit, but I would imagine it probably will be Wilson. So look, again, for Newcastle at the moment it feels very much like taking one step forward and two steps back, because you get Botman back in the squad and you could see what that meant to his teammates on Saturday. They were high-fiving him, you could see that they got a boost from Botman being back in the fold, playing the last 10 minutes or so. They get that boost, but it's coupled with Fabian Schär being injured and Joe Linton being injured. So yeah, it's just the way things are going just now. It does feel like they're running on empty, even though they got a good result at the weekend. But I think they just need to get through these next few games up until the turn of the year, and then try and reset and maybe get a few players back in January, and perhaps bring a couple of players in the January transfer window. So anyway, that's me back from the living dead. Just thought I'd give you guys a little update from the training ground today, and we're off to Chelsea tomorrow. Okay guys, if you haven't subscribed, please do leave your comments below, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.